Good morning to you. Can you actually distinguish between what is an achievement of government and what is an achievement of society? Can we really say this is because of what government did and this is because of what society did?
Yes, thanks, Stephen, for the opportunity, and good morning to you. So basically, what needs to be mentioned is that Minister Ramakgopa's response to the parliamentary question is informed by what is contained in the 30-year review of our country's democracy report, which details progress made by the government since 1994 to date in meeting the basic needs of the society. And as you rightly put it, it does point to the fact that there has been some forward movement in terms of human development indicators. That is, majority of South Africans are living longer, and this is credited to the implementation of the comprehensive HIV program plus the TB program. Access to basic education has also improved, plus the implementation of what we refer to as the anti-poverty alleviation programs in the main provision of social grants. So these are development indicators that are generic across the globe, which refers to human development indicators, looking at education and also issues related to income and other related aspects. So on that score, the government is saying we have made some progress, of course, notwithstanding the challenges and also the setbacks that the government has recorded over the last 30 years. Of course, issues of inequality levels remain high. We know the issue of unemployment and all of that. Now, in terms of ordinary members of the society, of course, they will always measure the effectiveness of any government program or policy based on their lived experience, meaning practically, do members of the public have access to basic services such as water and sanitation, educational facilities, for example, electricity, and also other basic amenities. So this is where we normally bring the concept of democratic deficit, that there is a gap between what democracy has promised to ordinary citizens versus the lived experience of ordinary citizens. So this is the challenge that we have in terms of what the government claims to have achieved or made progress on, and on the other hand, you have these ordinary members of the public who continue to be afflicted by poverty, for example, and also issues related to crime and other crucial issues.
I mean, it's one of the issues around this is that no matter what you do, it's going to be contested, right? If I were government and someone said to me, Stephen, you represent government, name one thing that government has done to really improve people's lives. And the answer would be obvious. You've already pointed to it. It would be social grants. And I remember the research a decade ago now that showed that children who grow up in homes that receive social grants were taller than children who grew up in homes that didn't. I mean, just that is a huge achievement, because those children will be taller, they'll live longer, they'll be healthier for the rest of their lives. That's a tremendous achievement. That's obvious.
Yes, you're right. Yeah.
So what I was going to go on and say is, I don't know if 5G internet is a government achievement, because that comes to me from a private company on a cell phone network that's employed by that employs private people privately. I pay for it. And the technology, and that is part of an international change that I don't know if government had much to do with, if you see what I mean.
Yes, the point is that, of course, we live in a digital economy. A lot of services have moved online. You have, for example, e-commerce. Government services have moved online through e-government platforms. You also have learning that also has moved online. That is e-learning. But comparatively speaking, South Africa, we're still lagging far behind in terms of ensuring that ordinary members of the public have access to these online services. And that's where the issue of public-private partnership become crucial, that government has to work towards partnering with the telecommunication companies, for example, as part of widening this access to ordinary members of the public who may not even afford the basic data costs, for example. So on that score, I think more work still needs to be done through collaboration between both the public and the private sector.
Where I'm trying to get to with this is that government has to do certain things. So social grants was a deliberate policy choice that was very much an achievement of government. But government also, frankly, messed up communications policy for a very long time. You may remember all of the arguments that we saw around spectrum. And in fact, you could argue that government policy delayed 5G internet. Some people might argue now that government policy is delaying Starlink, for example. We could have a big argument about that. What I'm trying to get to is that government will say this is an achievement. Maybe we sometimes need to question what government says is an achievement if it's actually coming from a private company.
Yes, as I said earlier, the good thing is that as ordinary members of the public, we should be able to hold state institutions accountable based on these development indicators, these targets they set for themselves, but also looking at progress around meeting those targets, achieving those targets, but also increasingly, what are the evolving expectations, demands, interests of members of the public, which have to be catered for by these state institutions. So you're right, there should be a clear alignment and matching of what ordinary citizens aspire to be provided with as part of their basic needs, basic services, and what government promises or intends to do as part of meeting their basic needs at the end of the day.
There's another aspect to this, Dr. Koma, which I'm sure you've seen and know better than I do, which is I think that many people now, and I think this is natural, I think many voters around the world do this. You look at government, politicians, the people in charge, and we see them as all the same. And if we look at how many people didn't vote in the last election, I would argue those are people who are probably quite disappointed in government and disappointed in all politicians as a result of that. And probably, again, to the point that you make, don't receive government services. I think there's a frustration at the moment. Do you think that's right?
You're quite right. Hence the issue of trust deficit. It has widened, and statistical reports and also official reports point to this reality and fact that ordinary people have factored this aspect to say there seem to be more rhetoric coming out of state institutions, including the leaders of these institutions who happen to be politicians and also the senior bureaucrats, promising to deliver A, B, C, but at the end of the day, there is no tangible delivery of these aspects or services in terms of ensuring that members of the public are able to have access, but also to enjoy this access to services and also basic needs. So there is acknowledgement that this is an area that needs to be strengthened and also looked into by state institutions, including institutions that play an oversight role, which would be your parliament and other legislative bodies at provincial level and also the local level.
Dr. Sam Koma, so much more to talk about on this, isn't there? Thank you so much. The governance expert, really appreciate the time this morning.